Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, across our beautiful country of Canada. Oh, yes, coast to coast to coast, dare I say. Our friends south of the border in the United States of America, below the Mexico part of the Three Amigos that we are, and Central America, South America, across the Atlantic to African continent. It's not a country. You know, there's people that think Africa is a country. Yes, we are smart. We know all things, especially when it comes to the map. Where is Ukraine? Oh, somewhere, next to Russia. And Russia's a bigger country. Oh,
so,
yeah.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
I think it's very important, as you have heard from so many incredible leaders, for us at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present, and to be able to contextualize it, to understand where we exist in the history and in the moment as it relates not only to the past but the future.
Yeah, she is one heartbeat away from the presidency of the United States of America. And boy, has she said a lot of Lulus. Now, on top of that, Biden announced his run for 2024, and he's going to keep Kamala on because he doesn't have to fear her. Is she going to be a threat to him to get elected if she were to take him on? No! But Canada has its own crazies. Trudeau, Freeland, to name two of them, but they're all over.
Misinformation and disinformation is carrying people to believe things that are untrue. And vaccinations is a perfect example of it. Like any modern bit of medical
Do tell me.
advancements, there are potential side effects in vaccinations.
What?
And there are people who've probably gotten very sick from vaccinations. Are people who've probably gotten very sick from vaccinations. Are people who've probably gotten very sick from vaccinations. Are people who've probably gotten very sick from vaccinations.
Man, I hope you're not eating right now, because watching Trudeau would be enough to make you puke, excuse that rough expression, to vomit. Yes, we're going to have to say it with vomit. But Trudeau is such a friggin' liar. And he's not smart. He's not smart, and he lies. And
to do the right things to get us through this. And it has culminated, of course, in vaccinations, scrambled to ensure that we have vaccines for everyone, because we know, particularly those of us who are parents, like I am, of kids under 12, that Pfizer has now submitted for regulatory approval at Health Canada a pediatric vaccine for kids 5 to 11. I can assure you that Health Canada is going to be examining attentively that submission, because Health Canada is going to be taking the time necessary to ensure that, like all vaccines approved for use in Canada, vaccines approved for kids 5 to 11 will be fully safe, will be fully safe, will be fully safe and effective, so that every parent can have confidence when these vaccines do get approved that they will be safe for their children.
safe,
to keep us
safe,
all safe,
safe,
to keep them safe, to keep our communities and schools safe as we
Safe.
move forward. Well, individuals are allowed to make their own choices. There may be all sorts of different reasons why someone is hesitant to get vaccinated. But I
Really?
make a distinction, and I have always have,
You do?
between someone choosing for personal reasons to choose not to get vaccinated and someone deliberately using misinformation to mislead and scare other people with so-called facts that aren't facts at all. And all of the scientists and the medical experts and the researchers, not just in Canada, but around the world, understood that vaccination was going to be the way through this.
Someone who uses misinformation is someone who uses information that the government doesn't like. That's really the only way to parse out these two groups of people. So these two unvaccinated groups, one group has personal reasons and the other group has things that they read that they find data points that the government doesn't like. That's the only way I can distinguish.
So how is that any different than personal reasons? Right?
Well, because you got to show your work. It's like math class. You got to show your work. You may have got to the right answer, but you didn't do it the right way.
So if the little old grandma over there is like, no, I just don't want to do it because I don't want to do it, he's fine with that. But if the other person over there, the other little old grandma is like, I don't want to do it because you know what? I've been watching the show Redacted and I've been learning and I've been seeing what this could do to my body. And so I don't want to do that. That's who he has a problem with.
There has to be an acceptance that there are experts out there that create a basis of fact that was built up on in generations to tell us that,
What the F kind of experts does he see? They create facts? Experts, scientists, researchers, research. They don't create it, then it becomes propaganda. And I think Trudeau's got the two things really friggin' mixed up in his little brain. You know, experts can't even agree on what is a man and what is a woman. Biologically, you know, there's no difference. Men and women, oh, I shouldn't even be saying that. People are all the same. Ask your birthing parent, you know?
There's transgender who physically alters, their biological characteristics. I think maybe a simplest way to maybe describe what a transgender person is somebody who is born with biological characteristics of one gender, but experience themselves as being of another gender.
But as it relates to this, if you identify as a female, not having the sex change operations, but if you identify as a female, you ought to be able to, biological man ought to be able to play in a biological female's sport.
Well,
now it gets really
the short
good.
Answer is yes.
Should Mike Tyson, have you heard of him?
Yes, I have.
If he identifies as a female, should he be allowed to box?
Well, look, again.
No, that's a very simple question, because you said yes, that if he identifies, should he be allowed to enter a boxing match with a biological female?
Well, on a sport-by-sport, case-by-case basis, it's not an absolute.
I thought earlier you said if you identify that, yes, that qualifies
I believe you should have the opportunity to participate in the sport that's consistent with your gender. The example you brought up of Mike Tyson, that brings up this image of this extraordinary athlete, highly developed musculature.
I think the West has reached its pinnacle. From now on, we're going down. We're slip-sliding away, while China, Asia, and the rest of the world is climbing. Europe has gotten beat up really bad by the sanctions. They got no energy. Europe has industries, but industries need energy. And they also need supplies, minerals, and all kinds of stuff. They don't have it. Thank you, United States of America.
Space is exciting.
Yeah, you got lots in your head.
It spurs our imaginations, and it forces us to ask big questions.
She's talking to military.
Space, it affects us all.
Oh.
And it connects us all.
Delivered that patronising, cringeworthy speech this week at the Vandenberg Space Force Base.
I just love the idea of exploring the unknown. And then there's other things that we just haven't figured out or discovered yet.
To think about so much that's out there that we still have to learn. Like, I love that. I love that. You guys are going to see. You're going to literally see the craters on the moon with your own eyes.
Oh, my goodness.
With your own eyes, I'm telling you. Came up with the idea that if you build something that looks like that, you can see the sun.
Yeah.
And you can see the moon, right? Well, wait till you guys see the moon. I'm telling you. I don't know what it is about those craters.
And for President Duda, I wanted to know if you think, and if you asked the United States to specifically accept more refugees.
Okay. A friend in need is a friend indeed.
Okay, I can first.
I am here, standing here on the northern flank, on the eastern flank, talking about what we have in terms of the eastern flank and our NATO allies, and what is at stake at this very moment. What is at stake this very moment are some of the guiding principles around the NATO alliance. Over these last 18 months, Democrats have delivered. Let me rephrase that. Over these last 18 months, Democrats have delivered big time.
Today, the business of our work is for the Council to report on the work that has occurred since our last meeting across these areas. We will today also discuss the work yet ahead, the work we must still do to continue to move forward.
If we, and by we I mean Western countries, you in the United States, us in Canada, and all the Western nations, Australia, New Zealand, UK, and others, if we don't change the system, if we don't get rid of the existing political parties, there is no hope for a better future. No, it's not going to be built back better, but it sure as the hell could end up being you'll own nothing and you'll be desperate.
Greenies may claim to be driven by science and facts, but the reality is environmentalism is far closer in form to religion. Joining me to inject some sanity into the debate is author and energy expert Alex Epstein. Alex, is this how you see it? Is climate hysteria akin to religious zealotry?
I'm glad that they're catching up and admitting it, because I've been frustrated for a long time that they have this primitive anti-human religion, but that they have the stamp of science on it, which makes it even worse because people just take it on faith. And one of these ideas is what I call sometimes the perfect planet premise, which is the idea that nature, absent us, is this perfect thing, and that all we can do is ruin it. And this has no basis in science or no basis in humanism. I mean, from a human perspective, the earth is not a very good place to live until we industrialize it, until we use a lot of energy and machines to make the world a productive and prosperous place. But yet people have this idea that it's this delicate nurture or perfect planet, and anything we do is going to ruin it. And that's behind a lot of the fear that people have had for over 50 years, whether it's a climate catastrophe, pollution catastrophe, resource depletion catastrophe. It's always, we're going to ruin the perfect earth with evil humans. So it really is, it's viewing like unimpacted nature as this God, and then we're going to anger the God, and the God is going to punish us. So it has a very religious hell narrative.
I'm finding all of this stuff very depressing once again, because I don't see the West standing up for freedom, democracy, free speech, all these things that were at one time so dear and held to the heart are now just nothing. They're blowing in the wind. You know, this morning I got up early, started going through all the news on the computer as I used to when I was doing videos, and all it gets you is depressed. That's one of the reasons why I'm going to be making less videos. I still will make them. They'll be powerful, they'll be true, but less.
Dear friends, I think I have provoked you long enough. So before Matchlap takes my microphone away, let's come to a conclusion. The world has several great nations, but none with the power and influence of the United States. For better or for worse, the world looks to you for the future. And the future of the West is in grave doubt. We in the West have not faced a crisis like this for a long time. The ideological wars of the 20th century against the totalitarian powers of Nazi Germany and Soviet Union were terrible. But democratic West rallied and defeated them both. Now the West is at war with itself. We have seen what kind of future the globalist ruling class has to offer. But we have a different future in mind. The globalists can all go to hell. I have come to Texas.
There's a lot of discord happening in many countries around the world. Viktor Orban is a great leader. He doesn't go for war. He's not into the sanction BS. He wants peace and prosperity. And now the EU is getting frightened because more are joining them.
If you think the European Union is united in its aid to Ukraine, think again. Divisions in the 27-member bloc are running deeper by the day. The most significant of those in recent weeks has been Hungary. Led by Prime Minister Viktor Orban, tensions between Brussels and Budapest have always existed. The two haven't shied away from exchanging harsh words publicly. In the matter of aid to Ukraine, Orban has time and again pointed out how flawed the EU's approach is. Mind you, it's important for the European Union to have all member nations on board. For all the tall promises it has made to Kyiv, eventually it's these countries that are going to finance it. Now, tensions are escalating. Hungary has scores to settle. It has some key nations on its side. The EU is being arm-twisted, and amidst all of this, the European unity has been thrown out of the window. There are two developments on the Hungary versus EU battle. First, France and Germany, the two biggest economies of Europe, are leading a 12-nation group that has declared open support to Hungary. The 12-nation group is almost half the European Union. Why? It's because the Viktor Orban-led nation has been fighting a lone battle so far to get financial aid from the EU to keep its economy afloat. Berlin and Paris strongly disagreed with the Commission's approach and assessment of this aid to Budapest. The European Commission recommended last week that 7.5 billion euros of EU funds be withheld from Hungary. Hungary supporters have also told the European Commission that it should undertake a fresh assessment of the nation's progress with a later cut-off date than December 19th. According to Politico, this group of countries also thinks that if no new assessment on this matter is carried out by the bloc, there may not be a qualified majority in the Council in favour of freezing the funds. That would be a major embarrassment for the EU for more reasons than one. The equations are straight. Hungary, France, Germany and 10 other nations' softer positions versus nations like Denmark, Sweden and Latvia that has agreed with the Commission's assessment of blocking the funds. This is not all. Hungary hasn't just been putting pressure verbally, but it has also taken some decisions in that regard that will surely hurt the European Union. Hungary vetoed an 18 billion euro financial aid package to Kyiv on Tuesday, leaving the other 26 nations to scramble to keep the money supply going. Orban's government just acted on what it was threatening to do all this while. And the threat was significant. You see, it's imperative for the EU to have all the nations on the same page. Like we said earlier, it's eventually these member states that are going to finance it. Hungary backing out in this instance means the European Union's task of getting the funds for Kyiv will become tougher. Viktor Orban says he has a fundamental issue in which the EU will fund the 18 billion euro financial aid for 2023.
Kelletlen, de belátja a saját gazdasági nehézségeink ellenére is belátjuk, hogy Ukrajnát segíteni kell. És az a kérdés, hogy hogyan segítsük Ukrajnát. Két javaslat van az asztalon. Az egyik javaslat azt mondja, hogy az uniós tagállamok költségvetését használjuk fel arra, hogy újabb hiteleket vegyünk föl közösen, és a közösen fölvett hitelből adjunk pénzt Ukrajnának. Ezt mi nem támogatjuk, mert nem szeretnénk, hogyha az Európai Unió az együttműködő tagállamok közössége helyett egy közösen eladósodott államok közösségévé vagy együttesévé válna. Ezért mi semmilyen, nem csak az Ukrajnával kapcsolatosan.
Budapest believes it would rather provide the money bilaterally to Ukraine as per its financial capacity. Brussels can and has been furious at Hungary as much as it wants. But Budapest on its part says it has some scores to settle. And worryingly for the European Union, the nation has some key partners on its side. Vetoing the Ukraine aid is also Hungary's style of sending a message to the bloc to release the funds it has withheld. And with nations like France and Germany on its side, one can just expect that these pressure tactics may work. Who do you think will blink first in this fight?
So we must take up the fight. Victory will never be found by taking the path of least resistance. We must take back the institutions in Washington and in Brussels. We must find friends and allies in one another. We must coordinate the movement of our troops because we face the same challenge. You have midterm elections this year, then presidential and congressional elections in 24. And we will have election in the European Parliament same year. These two locations will define the two fronts in the battle being fought for Western civilization. Today we hold neither of them, yet we need both. You have 2 years to get ready. I have to tell, it won't be easy, but don't be afraid. Just believe in Saint John Paul's, the Polish Pope's teaching. There is no enemy that Christ has not already defeated. So let's go out and do it. God bless Texas. God bless our friendship. Good luck and goodbye.
Climate anxiety. The emotional, the psychological, the mental toll that the knowledge about this crisis is taking. What's the other thing we know about this population? And it's a specific phase of life. Remember, age is more than a chronological fact. What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid. That is why we put them in dormitories, and they have a resident assistant. They make really bad decisions.
Open sesame, we say open Biden. That's our magic word.
A world in which substantial affiliated melodramatic dancing scenario citations and dubious deceival mescal beans unimpaired by compunction excogitate at any impasse.
We know that we really are quite behind in terms of maximizing our collective understanding about how we will engage on the technology of today and what we can quickly and easily predict will be the technology over the next decades. So to maintain our position as the United States of America on this issue, it is critical that we work together to understand where we are, to recognize and have the courage to speak truth about what is obsolete, and then to partner to ensure that we are speaking the same language with the same motivation, inspired by the opportunity of it all, but then doing the work of updating how we have been talking and thinking about our exploration in space.
Utterly meaningless. The person who is only one heartbeat away from being leader of the free world. Any idea what she was talking about? Nor have I. But this is the sort of gobbledygook we get day in and day out from our politicians. Devoid of meaning, impossible to pin down, and instantly forgettable.
So having done them in different places, how does this compare? London is the best. without a shadow of a doubt. I never said it to my beautiful son who's having a baby, so I'm going to be a Granny G.
The organisers have got to work out what is a male and what is a female, otherwise it's unfair. But to take the win and then claim girl power, give me a break.
Complete mockery of women, but you're quite right in saying the onus is on the organisers. This is patently unfair. He can do whatever he wants. You do you, mate. They are the ones that allowed him into this competition, and I want to know what they would say to all the women who now lost out, who would have been first, who would have been second, who would have been third. What do you say to these people that you've completely and utterly ripped off?
So unfair, isn't it, Justin? Presumably a woman came second and she's been disempowered. It's not girl power, it's disempowering women.
Look, and first of all, the person who won, the winner, has every right to be called she and to live her life any way that she wants, just like Liz said, but does not have the. I mean, I'm really feeling for the person here, for the woman who came in second, who worked her backside off to train and to run an entire marathon and to be the best in her category and yet get trumped like this. Because what I think it really, like I've said this many times, it just makes a mockery of the whole debate. Because if London's going to do this as a marathon, then just remove genders altogether, just have it open, age open, gender open, let everybody run. First is first and last is last, and just do it like that. Otherwise, there's no point to it.
Exactly.
If you're going to have male and female sport, you've got to find a way. We've seen this many times. Common sense has just been chucked out the window. And unless we bring it back, we're going to keep mocking transgender people.
Think about it this way. My grandpop, who I never met, he died in the same hospital I was born in 2 weeks before I was born.
Cute story, but see how it checks out.
An anecdote that is sure to pull on the heartstrings, but Sandra, it's a story that does not appear to have the added benefit of actually being true. Biden's grandfather that he was talking about there died September 1941 in Baltimore. President Biden was born November 20th, 1942 in Scranton, Pennsylvania.